Hey everybody, my name is Monette Smith. I am the owner of PR Luxury Media and PR Marketing. Some of you might be familiar with Review It and Flair magazines. That is us. We're going to be celebrating 20 years next year. So I'm super excited about, speaking on Friday. My story starts like this. I was raised by an undercover detective and a principal. And through their upbringing, I had very hard lessons in life that created my willingness to become disciplined, dedicated, and really to share my story on how I started a business with $1,000 at the age of 23 and continue to, influence and do lots of things around marketing and advertising. But the truth of the matter is that through my upbringing and the things that I had to learn, it wasn't always easy. I have done a lot of things and learned from it. And there are things that in my early childhood development created a path for success, but definitely couldn't get away with anything.
What were the things you created? What did you tell me about the discipline?
Oh, yes. Well, yeah. So one of the things that, my parents had always instilled was extreme discipline. 15 years old, I wrote my very first business plan. And I also started my very first job because at 16 years old, I couldn't get, at 15 years old, I couldn't get a job. So finally someone had hired me because I was so eager to work. But one of the things that my parents really, really instilled was discipline. And if you started something, you were not allowed to quit, no matter if you didn't like it, if someone, approached you and said, we have a different opportunity, you had to stick with it. And so that has always been ingrained in me. And I continued to build my business and philosophy around that while raising my own children and telling them the same thing. But I tell you, mom and dad weren't easy.
Why do you say that? How were they not?
I think, being raised by an undercover detective, you can only imagine that you are, I like to say, interrogated and investigated. My mother was a extreme one with her educational skills. She believed in reading and the power of language. And so therefore she created a household that was driven by books and articulation and vocabulary. And so a lot was to be said about that. And there's, and I survived, a lot of things a lot of things with mom and dad because I didn't exactly follow their path.
You said how to overcome hard things. What's the hardest thing, or finish what you started? So what is the hardest thing you ever started that you had to finish?
Oh, let's see. What's the hardest thing I ever started that I had to finish? School. No, I'm just kidding. The hardest thing that I probably had to finish that I absolutely did not like when I was a kid was ice skating. They put me in ice skating lessons, and when you have fallen on the ice a few times, it hurts. That's not fun. And I wanted to quit so bad, and mom and dad would not let me. No matter how many times I fell, they would tell me, you have to get up and finish. I don't know if it was because they were paying for it or if, they were really trying to instill. These are all lessons, I call them lessons in life. And these are all lessons that, now as an adult and a mom and a person that's been in business for over, almost 20 years, has all made sense to me now. Where they were coming from, where they were headed, and where we are now. And so it's interesting to go back and reflect and say, oh, so that's what you were teaching me. But yes, ice skating, I did not like that at all.
So you have to finish that lesson that day, or you had to
The
finish
entire
the season?
season.
Okay.
The entire season. And let it be known, I wanted to quit like day one because I fell day one and that hurt. And so I had to finish the entire season before I could move on to the next thing, which I ended up becoming a gymnast for 15 years and trained under the Bella Caroli team. So that was really cool.
What do you think would have happened if you had quit? If they had let you back out?
Yeah, so, that's interesting. I'd probably, I'd probably walk through life knowing that I could probably just, start things and not finish them. I think that, I think for the most part, everything that they had taught as far as sticking through things, whether they were hard or easy, has created my success in, being an entrepreneur, because if anybody is an entrepreneur, it's not easy. In fact, it's very, very hard. And there are moments in entrepreneurship and running a business that you want to quit. You want to, stop and think, is it worth it? Should I continue? And looking at the upside of things and how many people that you help along the way, because that's what I feel like we really do, is we help other businesses grow and, get them to become their true branded self and, help them navigate tools and ideas and help grow their business. And, you see all the things and good things that you're doing for others, but yet, it's very hard along the way. It's not easy. And I think if I would have, been taught to quit all the time, I might have just not have stuck out when it was really hard.
What makes it worth it?
People. I think people make it worth it for me. A lot of people invest in a lot of things. I like to invest in people. And what I mean by that is, my relationships and the people I meet along the way is what fuels me, is what gets me going. That, wow, someone's story impacted me, even the ones that I've heard already to this date, that, their stories impact. And, I think the greatest lesson in life is experience. And when we have experience, it's hard to fail, because failure has the greatest gift of all times, and it's experience. It teaches you something. And so to me, failure, even if I do fail, I get the greatest gift back, and that is lesson in life.
What do you learn with failure?
The biggest thing that I learn is when I fail at something, that I not only have learned something new, but I have experience. I know now what to do next time. I know if I want to do something better, if I want to change something. All these are all tools that create the next thing I do on even greater, because I've already went down that path. And so now here I am. I've learned all the things that I have done and not succeeded at, and now I have the opportunity to change that narrative and do it better.
How do you overcome failures in your personal life as a spouse and as a parent?
So how I overcome failures or how do I overcome failures?
Yeah, it's like, okay, like if you knew, okay, oh man, I might have screwed this up with my kids.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I might have done this wrong with my husband.
Gotcha. So that's great.
For them too.
Yeah. So how I overcome anything with, anything that has presented in my life, whether it's my spouse or my children, and I know it's, the failure, it comes and boils down to one thing for me, and that's communication. If I don't communicate, you will not know where I stand. So communication is, and then that's what I do for a living, but I also have to practice that as well, because if I'm not clear in my message, if I'm not clear with my spouse or my children on how I may or may not feel about something, then they don't have the power to shift. They don't have the power to change, or they don't have the power to stop and reflect on what I'm saying, and they might react differently if that came to me again. So, yeah, so really it comes down for me is, I need to communicate. And if someone has gotten instructions from me, whether it's the spouse or the kids, and it wasn't clear, then that's on me. I have to become clearer. And I think there's always a way to finesse a little, I am a female and I'm in sales, so I know how to say what I want to say. I know how to say what I want to say to get what I want to get. No. But, again, it comes to, communicating. You got to communicate. If I don't communicate with my spouse or my kids, my coworkers, my staff, my parents, my friends, how would you ever even know? And so that's big for me.
And what kind of communication do you expect from?
The best communicators for me are the ones that are straightforward, direct. You can't fault anyone for honesty. Even though I might not want to hear it, I might not want to own it at the time because it's hard, something that's hard to take in. Where I think I might, be thriving in, whether it's a friendship or a relationship with a business coworker or a client. And I really felt like, I have been giving my all to someone, and it really didn't reflect that way, then, there could always be a standstill, and I don't like that. So we have to be super clear. I like people to tell me, look, we like you, but these are the things we need to work on. Or, hey, we're not happy here. Or because then I can change. And if I don't change, well, then I don't care. So it's a very hard thing to navigate when someone tells you something that dang it, that is true. I got to work on that. I feel like we're all works in progress, and we all have to. We all need to be open to learning. Life is changing. Look where we came from 2 years ago.
But you're the boss. Are we supposed to just tiptoe around you and your ego and not tell you when you're wrong?
Yeah,
In your place, because otherwise my job might be threatened. Is that the way it's supposed to go?
I think a lot of people think that might be the way it's supposed to go, but that's not how it should go. If you don't have a safe space in your business, in your relationships, where you can be truly authentic with your feelings and not be reprimanded by that, it's like telling your kid, if you tell me the truth, you won't get in trouble. But then they tell you the truth and then they get in trouble. Well, what's going to happen next time? They're not going to tell you the truth. It's the same philosophy in business too, is, I want you to tell me the truth because maybe I'm so stuck in my own way or blinded by some new process or thought, and I'm not even seeing what someone else might be seeing. So I always am like, tell me how it is, and but I always tell everyone, don't be so harsh. Don't be harsh with it though, I'm a delicate flower. No, I'm just kidding. But there's a way to always say things. And I think you have to be good at how you want to deliver your message as well. You don't, if you're going to be harsh about something, it is going to get a different reaction. And so I think, I like being open. I like people feeling like they could come to me for anything, and that we can navigate problems together. We can solve them together. I might not have all the answers right then, but we'll get there eventually.
If someone was going to bring you an issue
Okay.
Because the people don't always bring a solution, they bring the problem. So how is it that someone would approach you with a problem that would incline you to listen?
How would someone approach me with a problem that would incline?
Has that happened? Sure, it's happened, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure. Well, one of the things that I always like to approach when someone brings me a problem is that I like to go through a series of things that, what have we done to create a solution? What have we done that I like to put it back in their shoe to help them understand what have we done to create a solution? Tell me everything that you've done to solve that problem. And what it does is it kind of forces yourself to solve your own problems, because we as people can't, always solve our own problem, and we need help, whether we got to have another team player, or we got to call in on a spouse, or maybe we got to run through some thoughts. And so I always like to, go in a little deeper and understand what have we done to solve that. And if it is criticism that we're talking about, then we want to, go through that process together, so that way we both are on the same understanding of what that looks like, what the solution looks like. To me, I've always said, because life is so short, right? We're on this earth, like we're breathing, we're here. Everything can be solved. There's nothing that can't be solved in my eyes. It's the worry of that problem that creates other problems. It's the worry that we find, the stress, the worry. What if this? What if that? You know how it was like when you were a kid, you wanted to go tell your parents something and it was going to be bad. Like you got in trouble at school or something, and you knew that, oh my gosh, the more that you held on to it, the worse it was going to get. But the moment that you came home and you said what was on your mind, or whatever you got in trouble for, and then your parents really, well, it didn't happen in my house. No, I'm just kidding. But your parents weren't, you're like, well, that wasn't that bad, because to me, it's like, if you have a problem, let's squash it now. Don't hold on to it. But if I'm not doing a good job of creating a space where you feel like you can come talk to me, then that's on me, and I need to work on that. So, I don't know if I answered your question, but I hope I did.
Okay, last question. Who, outside of your family, outside of your mom and dad, who are your role models? Who is it, like man or woman, or entrepreneur, business owner, potential entrepreneur, potential business owner, potential man, potential woman? All right, kidding. Who are your role models?
I don't know if I have a very specific role model, an actual person, specifically. I like to say that I am very, very attracted and highly intrigued by people who are all about self-improvement, who are self-motivated, who, are kind-hearted, navigate problems, move in a way that, are inspiring and positive. I like to think that anybody in that, because, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, everyone has a story. And I can remember sitting at a restaurant, and this bartender was telling me about their hardship and their story and how they overcame it. And they saved enough money to buy a house. And it was a big deal for them. And at the end of the story, what she didn't tell me was she bought the house entirely in cash. And this came from, she was abused when she was little. She, was in and out of homes. And this win for her was so great and so big because she would never, ever, ever be kicked out again. She would never be rehomed. And to me, that was so impactful because it was her determination, it was her ability to take something that happened so tragically and create her own safe place. And she told me all the places, because I used to say, I see you everywhere. Like, do you work everywhere? And she said, yes, I do. I work everywhere. And I find people like her, and I find people that I meet along the way. Those people become my role model. Those people become my energy, because I could really think I'm having a really bad day. And yet her safety, her safe place was the fact that she now has a home she owns outright, that no one can ever kick her out. And that, to me, was a role model in the making. And so I find a lot of those in a lot of people that inspire me. So yeah, that's it.